most docs don't know this stuff. Even some of the people that have the best intentions and they're really nice or they're really natural, sometimes functional, integrative, even naturopathic or Ayurvedic practitioners, they just don't understand this stuff. So we're just beginning to really learn this at a much bigger scale.
Right.
But we're still just cracking this, or maybe skimming the surface of this now.
Yeah.
And we're still learning, by the way, too. I want to be clear. So.
Yeah, and I mean, you did mention tobacco, and I've heard electromagnetic radiation, specifically wireless radiation, compared to tobacco being the new tobacco, maybe worse than tobacco in terms of health impact.
It's way worse.
Yeah, but in this being compared in the sense that it's been overlooked or suppressed, the information about how unhealthful it is for decades. And now, we got people dropping like flies from brain tumors, tons of chronic illness, and there's a lot of components. But one thing's for sure, it wouldn't be the first time that some product was unleashed into the marketplace without adequate safety testing, and with independent scientists screaming at the top of their lungs that there's something wrong here, and the government looking the other way.
Our systems of this are broken.
Yeah.
Politically, socially.
And I just want to mention too that for people who are concerned about the proliferation of electromagnetic radiation in our environment as a whole, even outside the home, with all the cell towers and 5G, they do have a petition that's been signed by I don't know how many scientists around the world.
I think we're a couple thousand now.
Yeah. Called a 5G Space Appeal, is 5gspaceappeal.org.
Oh, that's a new one.
There's
another one. There's been numerous of them over the years.
There's the Bio Initiative report. So there's some different websites and organizations you can look into for more information. But 5G is definitely becoming more and more of an issue, and
100%.
People are becoming more aware that this new 5th generation wireless is going to compound greatly our burden, the burden on our bodies and our environment, our pollinators.
Which it will.
Yeah. And if we want to take action on that, that's important. Fortunately, though, you were talking about how wireless radiation, radio waves, 5th generation is likely going to include millimeter waves. They can be mitigated through shielding fairly easily because they don't travel very far, if I understand correctly. And that's, again, where someone like you would come in, because hopefully not, but if the powers that be or the industry gets its way and nothing changes, we're going to have these transmitters on every light post almost, these 5G transmitters, right?
And if I understand politics, because again, I came into this 20 years ago from politics, so I wasn't one of these people that had a catastrophic environmental situation happen to me and then I went to learn about it.
Right.
I came about it through the political thing when I used to be involved in national and international politics. But I wanted to relate a story to one of the resources that you mentioned, or that you talked about generally. So I've done work with Deborah Davis for many years, and there's Lloyd Morgan, and she has a whole team of people it's okay, who've been helping her over the years, and she's an incredible wealth of information.
What's her organization? Is that the
Deborah
Environmental
Davis,
Health Trust?
the Environmental Health Trust.
Yeah, okay.
So there's about 20 of us, maybe even 30 of us, that have been involved with them for many, many years, doing all this amazing stuff. And Deborah's a Spitfire who heads it and takes it out to the countries.
Right.
And so they mostly focus on just the radiation portion. But when she wrote her book years ago, she talked about, and I think it was in the chemical book, The History of the War on Cancer, she talked about, you mentioned about, EMF being the new tobacco. Well, the Nazis actually tried to create a healthy cigarette way back when, because they knew that these vested, international tobacco interests were basically harming the health of everybody in their society, and were making the nation weaker. And so the Nazis were huge in their opposition to those kinds of vested interests, the same kind of interests that are interested in 5G and other things in our society. So they tried to create a healthy cigarette, and they were really, they really believed that they could do it, and they ultimately, threw up their hands because they couldn't do it. And so the question has become, can we make EMF safe? And solar panels and Tesla cars, and I don't think we can, to be honest with you. or at least not in the way that we're doing it, and not tying it to a grid that's already unsafe.
Right.
And so when we get these things, the best thing we can do for all human bodies, and this goes back to Bill Ray, and I don't remember if it was Doris Rapp or who, that created the whole rain barrel hypothesis. But there's a rain barrel hypothesis, which is that you fill up your body with more and more toxins, right, or toxicants, as we call them,
the toxic
scientifically.
load, basically.
Building up your toxic load of, from biocides to, things that are pesticides that are in your foods, and electromagnetic
GMOs.
radiation, and GMOs. We'll leave GMOs out because part of the aspect of GMOs, we don't know how much of it is the GMO and how much of it is the pesticides, that the GMOs were created to be better able
Roundup,
to tolerate.
glyphosate.
But we made them GMO. If you go back to the history of GMOs, what they found is that they had these cesspools right outside their chemical factories, and said they dump all their chemicals. And what they found is certain chemicals, when they dump it out, no bacteria would grow on it. So they're like, oh, this is a potent biocide. So then they thought if they just gave the bacteria from that, or if they just gave the gene from that bacteria and put it into the plants would be able to withstand these increased amount of pesticides. So when we get the GMOs, the GMOs, like, we really don't understand all the health benefits, or I'm sorry, not all the health issues that are going to happen. But we know just by doing what it's designed to do, which is to tolerate a higher load of herbicides and pesticides and all that other stuff, that we're going to make ourselves sicker by taking those things in.
Right.
So that's kind of where it is. So can we make a safe chemical? Can we make a safe GMO? Can we make a safe, Tesla car or solar panel, or Wi-Fi, Wi-Fi or cell phone? And the answer seems to be yes, by the way. And I would say I doubt we'll ever pursue this. But even if you look into, and it's really heady stuff that your readers or your viewers and people probably won't want to go into, but there's a gentleman named Konstantin Meil, and he's a German electrophysicist. He's brilliant, and talks about how if we use scalar technology, so this gets into some of the pulsed EMF that maybe some people might know about from medical stuff. So, but if we use scalar technologies, we could use these same technologies and they wouldn't harm us or the pollinators.
Ken Rolla is someone. I don't know if you've heard of Ken Rolla.
I don't.
Yeah, he
I don't
talks
keep up
a
with
lot
all the
about
popular stuff.
Scalar. Well, he's not. I don't think he's very mainstream, but
Okay.
he talks a lot about scalar energy and Tesla and things like that. But I don't want to get too
No, for sure.
Yeah, high tech. But one thing I did want to mention about how we're bringing a lot of this stuff into our home, that's something also for people to consider. We had a corded phone. It had a cord on
a
it.
Landline
phone. That when I got my meter, because I actually have my own electromagnetic meter. Yours are a little bit fancier. I just have the Acousticom 2, which does measure.
Which is really affordable and really helpful for finding out what the electrical components are of certain frequencies.
Yeah, so it does measure radio frequency radiation within the 200 megahertz to 8 gigahertz range. It won't measure millimeter wave radiation from 5G, for example.
And understand it does it decently. So a lot of these devices won't always do as well at the ends that they claim to do, but
it does.
Okay.
Yeah, and it does, but it gives you a general idea.
It's a good indicator,
and maybe we can do a video or demonstration at one point how it works. There is a light and a sound component, so you can kind of hear what's in your environment.
What sound is that?
So you were saying it was a cell tower, right?
It's a cell tower.
That high-pitched squealing kind of sound. Brian, you're kind of familiar with the sound signatures with a lot of these devices. So this is great because it makes the invisible visible, the inaudible audible. And so this is a great thing.
They should hire you.
Safe Living Technologies. I think that's where I got this online.
Rob Metzinger's company is a good company, and he has I think he has even better devices out now.
Yeah.
They have the Safe and Sound device that just came out, which is really good.
Yeah, I've heard of that one too.
I would say that's a better one overall. But
one thing I was going to say though was when I did take my meter, I was measuring everything from my vehicle. There was Bluetooth. I didn't realize, I had turned off the Bluetooth on my phone. But in the past, I had connected my Bluetooth with my car.
Yeah.
So the car was still giving off, I don't know, like signals basically.
And that's why we measure.
Yeah, to